Blog Talk Radio. You're tuned in to In5D Radio, the next dimension of radio, where we bring you the hottest, in-depth, spiritual, metaphysical, esoteric conversations and news, with your hosts Greg Prescott and Heidi Cole. Get ready for spirit, body, and mind to expand in 3, 2, 1.
Namaste, everyone, and welcome to In5D Radio, coming to you from the 99% quartz crystal sands of Sarasota, Florida, every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and 12 a.m. midnight in the UK. I'm your host, Greg Prescott from In5D.com, and for the next 2 hours, we're going to be raising the vibration of the planet, galaxy, and universe. Tonight, our special guest will be out-of-body experience expert William Buhlman, but first I'd like to introduce my co-host, coming to you from New York City, singer, songwriter, stunt person, and author of the Subway Diaries, Heidi Cole. Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Greg. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
Yeah. There's been so much going on, so much with last time. I could cover and dive into, IRS gate and doubling of the student loan interest rate gate and NSA Verizon gate, or any of the other gates and ways the dark ones are attempting to farm us humans, or rather get us to actually pay for them to farm us on planet Earth. But I thought a little reprieve and perhaps hopeful news might be in order tonight, just as a breather. Okay. We can go back to that stuff. As I mentioned briefly a few weeks back before my logic board crashed, in an article by Unic Tan in the New Earth Daily, Diane Cooper interviewed Junvalo Melchizedek on the new human race that cannot get sick. So Diana said, Junvalo, who are these children of the new dream that you are so excited about, Junvalo? Well, there are 3 different kinds of children emerging in the world today, and I have been able to identify The first are called super psychic children of China. The second are called the indigo children, and the third are called the children of AIDS, which is a rather bizarre title, but you'll see why he calls it that. The first one, the super psychics of China, were discovered in 1984 when a child was found who was psychic beyond belief. Researchers conducted every psychic test you could imagine, and he was 100% correct every single time. You could turn cards over in another room, and that didn't matter. He could perfectly know what was on the card. Omni magazine then, as a follow-up, actually went to China and wrote an article on this discovery. There they found one child, then another, then thousands of children just like this particular one. When they first went in 1984, they assumed it was a hoax. So they did experiments, like putting 100 kids in a room and taking a book and randomly pulling out a page. They would crumple it up and stick it under their armpit, but these kids could read every word on the page through their arm. They did the test after test, and the response was flawless, and the phenomena didn't stop there. These kids are not just in China. They have spread all over the world, and there in fact appears to be 2 separate groups, the super psychic and the indigo, and both are incredibly psychic and amazing. But there's this third group that Junvalo says he's most interested in. He continues, the children of AIDS. About 10 or 11 years ago in the U.S., there was a baby born with AIDS. They tested him at birth, and then at 6 months, and he tested positive for AIDS at that point as well. Then they tested him a year later, and still he tested positive. They didn't test him again until he was 6. That's 5 years later. And what was amazing was that this test showed he was completely AIDS-free. In fact, there was no trace that he had ever had AIDS or HIV whatsoever. The child was then taken to UCLA to see what was going on, and those tests showed that he didn't have normal human DNA. In the human DNA, we have 4 nucleic acids that combine in sets of 3, producing 64 different patterns that are called codons. Human DNA all over the world always has 20 of these codons turned on, and the rest of them are turned off, except for 3, which are the stop and the start codes, much like a computer. Science always assumes that the ones that are turned off were old programs from our past. Anyway, this boy had not 20 but 24 codons turned on, 4 more than any other human being. Then they tested this kid to see just how strong his immune system was. They took every lethal dose of AIDS in a Petri dish and mixed it with some of his cells, and his cells actually remained completely unaffected. They kept raising the lethalness of the composition and finally went up to 3,000 times more than what was necessary to infect a human being, and his cells still stayed completely disease-free. Then they started testing his blood with other things like cancer and discovered that this kid was immune to everything. Then they found another kid with these codons turned on, and then another one, and another one, until 10,000 had been, and then 10 million of them had been found. And at this point, UCLA, by watching worldwide DNA testing, estimates, and this may surprise you, since as it did me, for at least I have never seen this reported in between Race for the Cure or Donate to AIDS Research or anything. I've never seen anything on this. That 1% of the world now has this new DNA. That breaks down to approximately 60 million people who are not human by the old criteria. Diane continued to ask, is this new codon activation found only in newborn children? June below. Well, it's mostly in children, but now they're finding it in adults too, just like the 100 monkeys theory. Now all kinds of people are being affected by it, and it's spreading fast. Remember, it started just 5 years ago with almost no one, and now it's spreading. And of course, this article was written about 15 years ago originally. Just like a disease. It's like an outbreak, and this is only the beginning. Now remember, this research was started in 1984, and the article apparently written around 1990, so you can do the math on what these numbers must be like now in 2013. And yes, no one in mainstream has yet reported this. Science has stated that there are so many people showing up with this new alien DNA that they now believe a new human race is being born on the Earth today, and apparently they can't get sick. Now, what's really incredible is that they believe that it is very specific emotional, mental body response, a waveform coming off the body that is causing the DNA to mutate in a certain way. The first part of this composition, which Greg Braden and Drew Below say makes up this phenomenon, the first part is the mind that sees unity. And it sees the flower of life. It sees everything interconnected in all ways. It doesn't see anything as separate. And the second part is being centered in the heart to be loving. And the third part, which is part of this composition that composes the emotional, mental, body phenomenon, is to step out of polarity, to no longer judge the world. As long as we are judging the world as good or bad, then we are inside polarity and remain in the fallen state. I believe, he says, these people with the new DNA have somehow stepped out of the judging and are now in a state that they see everything as one and feeling love. Diane continued, have you met any of these people? Are they accessible? And June Phillips says, well, I have known for over 2 years, and I've personally followed this path, and I think I've moved into what they are doing. I have gone into the Merkaba and asked my subconscious mind to change my codons in the same way. And ever since I began to do this over 2 years ago, I haven't been able to get sick. I don't know if I've been able to change them or not, but I guess the only way I know is to do a DNA test. However, I've been exposed to all kinds of things, and when someone gets sick, I purposely get close to them and try to get it. And I've been trying to get sick, and I can't. I feel something is going on. It will last maybe an hour, and if I feel something coming on, it will maybe last an hour, then it's gone. What is interesting is that hardly any of this new DNA is found in the super psychic children of China, almost zero. It is, however, being found in Russia and the U.S. There seem to be pockets of it. And what we're thinking is, if what we're thinking is right, it has to do with a very specific response, which is where most people in New Age are headed for. A new race is being born, and it is one of the most remarkable phenomenon that has happened on the planet. It is incredible that no one seems to know about this until now. And then Diane touches on the consciousness topic again, the one that was covered a lot on In5D. She's asked, and that has to do with putting yourself in a certain state of consciousness? June below. Yes, a specific state of consciousness produces a change in your DNA. And I think it's just the beginning of much more than that. The fact that it could be the end of a disease is just a tiny bit of the total picture. Diane, how would this particular kind of work and discovery affect DNA activation work that seems to be popping up all over June below? Well, if you know your light body and you know how psychic energy works, and if you understand the connection of the subconscious to all life and this planet, then you can go in and ask your subconscious. Your subconscious knows exactly which codons those kids have changed. And if you ask for those things to happen through your light body and in the presence of God, it should occur. However, it requires dropping polarity, no longer thinking in terms of good or bad, but seeing the wholeness and completion and perfection of life. It is in this very definite mind, emotional, and body. It is a very definite mind, emotional, and body response. Finally, Diana, so if this is the case, then what significance does this have on our lives today? June below. I believe that all of us have the choice to follow this particular pattern, and that the children have set up, or not to, of course. It is said that the children will lead the way. If we wish to, and if we trust these children, as I do, one of the side effects is the immunity to disease. And she asks, there are a lot of us who are choosing immortality. However, some people would say that to be immune to disease is also to upset the life-death cycle, which has supposedly helped keep the planet in balance. How would you answer that? And June Phyllis says, well, I don't judge it. This is happening, and if it is going to upset the cycle, and it probably will in some way, everything that is occurring in life has a reason and a purpose for it. Perhaps these people who don't get sick anymore, perhaps they won't even die anymore, and perhaps their consciousness is so aligned with the original purpose of Earth that ultimately it would mean an Earth that is whole and complete and not one that is polluted and deadly and overtaxed. We could easily live with 6 million people or 20 billion if we live differently. There is plenty of space. It is just that we are using our resources in a way that are killing the planet. If we choose to live in different ways, that might change. Maybe through these new people, the answers might become apparent. For someone to move into a state where they are immune to disease is a very powerful indication that they are definitely in harmony with life somehow. And this is what I spoke of slightly stressing our systems to strengthen them, as happens with plants when water is given at longer and longer time intervals, or even when when impact is experienced, such as running or jumping or even break is experienced, they always end up stronger as a result. So to that end, June below finishes by saying, we can equate this process with the mutation of bacteria and viruses. We attack their system with pollutants, such as penicillin, for instance, and it kills them, all except for a few. Those few get stronger. Now what's happening is that these bacteria are getting to the place where they are immune to the poisons that we are giving them. And have we not done the same thing? We are mutating to a point where we are not affected by the pollution or viruses or by disease. And you know there is another thing that has happened in this last year. AIDS has dropped something like 47%, the largest drop of a single disease in history of the world. So I believe this has a lot to do with this very thing we are talking about. And personally, I'll conclude by saying I believe this entire concept outlined above will and probably already is carrying over to how we and the Earth are and will ultimately experience things such as GMOs, chemtrails, radiation, etc. That's far from a done deal when it comes to Monsanto. That it's far from a done deal when it comes to Monsanto or the chemtrail planes or Fukushima for that matter. That there's much, much more going on than any of the powers who wish they were could ever have anticipated us waking up to. It's no longer about getting them to change or bend or break, but it's about becoming acutely aware and intimately familiar of our potential and power and create that change from within. And from within, we'll create the outside, our physical world and existence we desire. That truth, that deep within the universal consciousness lays our power. So that was our story this week. Greg, do you have anything news-wise? Great. Are you there?
No, I'm here. Actually, I don't have anything, but what you just said really makes you think about the 100th monkey effect and how it relates to our true spiritual evolution.
Absolutely, and instead of putting our energy wholly on changing others by boycotts, and I think that has its place, but just maybe spend an equal amount of time on your own inner abilities and developing them, because there's so much power we've yet to tap into.
As the siren goes by.
Oh, my God. I'm so sorry.
Heidi, I see our guest, William Buhlman, has arrived, so would you like to bring him in?
Absolutely. And
all right.
Just a brief on William. William Buhlman is one of America's leading experts on astral travel and out-of-body experiences. He's the author and instructor at the Monroe Institute. 30 years of extensive personal out-of-body explorations give him a unique and thought-provoking insight into this subject. During the last 6 years, he has conducted an international out-of-body experience survey that includes over 16,000 participants from 32 countries. Over the past 2 decades, Bill has developed a proven, effective system to experience safe, self-initiated out-of-body experiences. As a certified hypnotherapist, he incorporates various methods, including hypnosis, visualization, and meditation techniques in his workshops to explore the profound nature of out-of-body experiences and the benefits of accelerated personal development. His website is astralinfo.org. And his books include Adventures Beyond the Body, The Secrets of the Soul, and his newest book, which William just let me know today, has just been published today, called Adventures in the Afterlife. So a big congratulations is in order from the In5D family to you, William. And welcome, William Buhlman.
Oh, well, thank you, Heidi. Yeah, it's a long-awaited day for me. It's 2 years, a project that took 2 years to complete.
It's a long process, the book writing one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's
people think they just happen.
Yeah, that people think you sit down and one day you have a book. I don't know, but yeah, for me, this is my first book in 12 years, and this particular book took It took 2 years of serious contemplation.
Wow. Did you find it? How is it different than your first 2 books?
Well, I focus on a different topic. I'm focusing on the afterlife and what people experience after death. So what I tried to do to the best of my ability was to present a realistic, very grounded approach to what people experience after they make the transition. I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Greg, do you want to try to bring him on through bring William on through Skype?
I could do that, but I would need his Skype number.
Oh,
name. Yeah.
Oh, right. The phone number I sent won't do it?
Maybe we could try it.
No, it seems clear.
Okay. Let me know if it's doing it again, and we'll reroute you.
Okay.
Let's just quickly, if you could tell the listeners how you ended up with this being your passion, because you're certainly, you're not only passionate about it, you're very scientific about it. It's really refreshing how you approach this, and it's so grounded. And I'd love people to know how you got from there to here, because it's an interesting story.
Well, this is 40 years ago. I was in college, and I wasn't a believer in this. Matter of fact, I had never even heard of astral projection, and it was before the term out-of-body was even coined. But a friend of mine had a spontaneous experience, and it changed him. It really made a huge impact, and I wanted to re-experience or experience what he experienced. So I began an exploration of ways to self-initiate an out-of-body experience, which back then was called astral projection. And I found a technique that was quite simple. I now call it the target technique. And I practiced this technique for, 25 straight days, and then on about the 26th day or so, I had my first out-of-body experience, and it changed my entire paradigm. It changed my entire perception of reality. I was not a believer in this stuff at all, and you couldn't have convinced me. That's why I had to prove it to myself, whether it was just baloney or whether it was a reality. And when I had my first experience, it just blew me away. It opened up a whole new world, and I began to be just exploring it. I just became a fanatic about it because it was so exciting and so powerful. Suddenly you realize, oh my God, I do continue. And other people live in these other dimensions of reality, and I have the ability to actually contact them and explore this alternate reality or parallel reality face to face. It's not about beliefs. This was about having your own experiences and proving to yourself, and that's what turned me on. So that started my exploration, and it continues now, 40 years later.
Were you at any point during that first experience, after the 30 days, that very first, were you scared at all when it actually kicked in? Were you frightened?
There was times. The first time, I think I was just totally shocked because I really didn't believe it. But when it happened to me, I couldn't dispute it any longer, and that was just shocking. I just put my hand through the wall in my first experience, and then I thought of standing, and I'm standing by the foot of the bed. And I'm totally conscious. This isn't a dream. That's what I like to emphasize. Many people think, oh, these are just lucid dreams. No dreaming here. I was fully conscious, fully aware, standing next to my body. And what really kind of shocked me was the fact that as I examined my surroundings began to change. And I realized that there was somebody watching me. And that kind of, I'll be honest, it did freak me out a little bit because I wasn't expecting that. I don't know what I was expecting. And I instantly realized that I was being watched by someone that was not physical. And that kind of, I don't know if the word scared, it shocked me, and I thought, you think of your body, you're instantly back in your body.
That's what I was going to ask. Does it break it when that happens?
Oh, yeah. Any random thought. Okay. There's only one rule in out-of-body exploration, and that is never think about your body, because then you will instantly return to it. So a lot of these fear-based things are totally, by the way, a lot of these fear-based things that are out on the internet about you can't return or you're going to get trapped and all, it's all complete baloney. The opposite is actually true. Most people have a very difficult time training yourself to remain focused away from your body because we're so conditioned to accept our body as our self-identity. There's a tendency for us to even have a feeling of your body will end an out-of-body experience. You think of your toe or finger, bang, the experience is over. So
no, go on.
So that was my first experience, and what I found exciting about it, and I still find exciting about it, is simply that this is not about beliefs. It's not about any kind of philosophy. This is about having your own experience, and you come to your own conclusions about what it is for you. I don't try to frame this for other people. What I try to do is just help people, train them to have their own experience, and then let them make up their own mind about how do you perceive it? What do you think it is? I mean, and that's what's powerful because, we live in a world inundated, immersed in belief systems. And there is no belief systems here. This is about becoming an explorer and actually entering these other dimensions of reality and seeing them, exploring them in person. And it's quite empowering because that's, the answers come from experience. They don't come from philosophies. They come from personal experience, which, of course, is why we're all here. All 7 billion of us are here for experience, because that's how we grow, that's how we evolve. This accelerates, I think, evolution because we begin to explore the true nature of ourselves and reality.
Fascinating. I know you said everyone's experience is individual, and you encourage that because there is no, one thing that people are supposed to achieve. Do you notice, though, any one or two or three things that are common with people's experiences that are sort of through lines, or are everyone's is completely different from everyone else's, like a fingerprint? Or
Oh, well, there are common elements that I think are important to share with your listeners. For instance, at the beginning stages of an OBE, most people, or at least based on research, 70 to 75% of people will experience the vibrational state, which is any kind of, one of the common elements is temporary paralysis of the physical body, where you just can't move your body. You're humming, music, buzzing sounds, sometimes very loud, high energy sensations moving through you. And of course, in my books I list about 20 different elements: voices, floating sensations, falling sensations. This is all part of an out-of-body experience, because an out-of-body experience is actually the transfer of our consciousness from our outer physical body to our less dense, more subtle energy body. So it's the term out of body is actually a little bit of a misnomer, because even though you feel like you're going out of body, what you're actually doing is transferring your awareness, your conscious awareness, to a less dense energy body that you already have, because we are multidimensional beings. And the physical world that we see around us, it's just the thin epidermis of the universe. That's all it is. It's a very, very small portion of the total universe that we dwell within. And as you have out-of-body experiences, you begin to, and near-death experiences, by the way, there are inner experiences where you're actually entering these more subtle dimensions of reality that are right here and right now. We just don't perceive them because of the vibrational differences. But what's exciting is that this is not just theory, and it's not just speculation. Millions of people have these experiences today, and of course that's what I like to write about and share with people, because it opens people up to a whole new world, a whole new exciting reality of their own capabilities.
Which is actually what I was going to ask next, which is in my own experiences with channeling and out of body, and did you find at the beginning that it was both exciting but then rather isolating or lonely, because it's not like you can just sit at Starbucks and chat with anyone about this, unless you pick your Starbucks people carefully. So was it both empowering and isolating at the same time, or did you not encounter that at all?
No, I certainly did. I found out very quickly. Remember, my first experience was in the early 70s, and I found out very quickly that I couldn't talk about. People didn't comprehend what you're saying. People would, you bring up the subject. You had to be kind of a loner a little bit on this. Nowadays, you can talk about it more openly, but back in the 70s and 80s, this was a topic that people just there was no reference point for people. If you talked about this, people would ask you, like, what are you smoking or something, but they had no concept of it, and they just assumed it was some kind of, you were either having a dream or some kind of hallucination. And that it's a shame, because, out-of-body experiences have been, the Bible is full of it, the Quran is full of it, every biblical text, every holy text throughout history has references to individuals leaving their body. I mean, Revelations is essentially an out-of-body experience. It begins with, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. What does that mean, I was in the Spirit? So, in other words, these experiences have been happening. They're universal experiences that have been documented for thousands and thousands of years. They've just been cloaked in the mystery of some of the dialogue. For instance, St. Paul talks about whether in the body or out of the body in 2 Corinthians. Yes, people haven't drawn these dots together that are so, I found them very prevalent.
Right.
The Tibetans talk about this extensively, about having out-of-body experiences. Yogis talk about this. But it was always cloaked generally in mysticism. Even in the modern era, where the Theosophists would talk about it, but it was always cloaked in their own language.
Right.
So it's only recently that the term out-of-body has really hit the public's eye, and now it's becoming studied and explored and in a more open way, thank goodness.
Right. So it's not just for them, it's for all of us. It's there for all of us. And your work is
it is for everybody, because you know what's funny, Heidi, is that according to surveys, 98% of the population in America and Canada believe in the concept of a soul or spirit. You know, and that's, in other words, they all admit that's what we are. And if that's what we are, why can't we experience that now? Why do we have to wait until we die to experience who and what we are? It's silly. In other words, it's only natural to experience your true self. Again, I'm just trying to present it in a little different format. And it's actually the most natural thing you can do is to experience it. The most unnatural thing is actually to remain separated from your true self. And as people have done through centuries, they've locked themselves essentially into their bodies and have no context or spiritual experience. And it's sad. And that's, of course, what's happened.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, that's
it seems that might
happened in Western societies.
Yeah, and what meets the root of so much illness and disease, because I found with my own experiences that whether I talk about them or just live them, the balance is so much greater in your life in general once you are able to employ all of you or work on including all the parts of that are available to you. It's just so much lighter. Everything is so much lighter. I'm wondering how it changed your 3D world the more you practice it, because obviously you've been at this for a very long time. So I'm curious how it affected you in the your day-to-day views of the world at the beginning stages, and also how it might assist others in their personal life path to have their own out-of-body experience.
Well, this is how I feel. The majority, there's 7 billion people, and very few of these people know what they are, where they come from, where they're going, and what their purpose is. Think about it. What's the greatest mystery? What happens when you die? We know, in the last 2,000 years, people still know absolutely nothing more than they did 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. They're wrapped in belief systems. They're hoping and praying something good will happen, and they will go to this mystical place called heaven. Isn't it true? There's been no evolution of this. Now, yet we have the ability to obtain the answers ourselves, but we have to do it through our own experience. It's not found in books. It's not found in lectures. It's in developing a way for you to go beyond the physical and to begin to tap into your own potential, because the answers are within us. And we have to find a way, either through out-of-body exploration or meditation or yoga, different paths appeal to different kinds of people. But we have to develop our own way to have that inner experience and begin to connect with our true self, which is non-physical. Because I listened a little bit about your intro, and what I have found is that all evolution is inner evolution. We're evolving beyond matter. Mm-hmm. And there is no death, it's just change. That's all it is a shift of consciousness, and that's how we're evolving. And we have to become more aware of that, and one of the ways you do that is through out-of-body exploration.
I think it's very empowering, and I agree from experience that all of the methods you mentioned, including out-of-body, allow you to actually live your 3D world. This is what I found. I'd be curious to hear what you say. But I found it allows your walking day to feel completely different. And in my work, at least, I'm able to reach people far more effectively and directly when I incorporate the things that I experience, whether in meditation or out of body or whatever. When I incorporate those things into my day-to-day life, it's amazing what people don't know how they're being affected or why, but they're affected. I sing and in the subways, and I see it changing people far more than when I just sang as a 3D flesh and blood and bones person. Far more. It's drastically different.
Well, it's a grand illusion that we're physical beings. I mean, it's almost sad that so few people realize that we're so much more than that, and that the physical body is just a vehicle of consciousness. One of the most shocking things I've learned from my out-of-body experiences, and some people don't relate to this, but it's just to be quite factual about it, when you have an out-of-body experience, you rapidly find out by when you prolong your experience that your humanoid form begins to dissolve away. We are not human. Consciousness is not human, no more than consciousness is dog or cat. Consciousness Consciousness has the capacity to animate matter and use whatever vehicle it needs for its education and evolution. And right now, 7 billion of us are using a humanoid form for our evolution through trial and error in matter. But that's not what we are. We're far more creative than just a humanoid. We're pure consciousness with the capacity to create any reality we choose, to mold any form we need to achieve our goal. And that's one of the great things I've learned that some people still have a hard time with, because they're so attached to this, I'm a human, or I'm a male, or I'm a female. All these things pass, and as people evolve, they grow beyond just having three-dimensional form, and they grow beyond just the limits of that image of themselves. That's one of the things that you quickly learn, which is, it takes a while to adapt to, because then you begin to have a different viewpoint of yourself as consciousness, or some people call it soul. But consciousness is incredibly powerful. It's immortal, and it has the ability to use different forms to achieve its goal of evolution. And once you realize that, you realize how unlimited you truly are. We're not locked into these, let's just say, little bodies and these little ideas of what we are. We're much more expansive as consciousness. And that's one of the things you learn from out-of-body exploration, and it's not a theory, you know it because you experience it.
Oh, it's very powerful. I always call it that our bodies are costumes. I feel like costumes for the moment. Do you think can you explain briefly your target method that you used for those first 30 days? So people can get it, because I played with it a bit, and it was powerful.
Yes. I teach in my workshop at Monroe many different methods. We do over 24 different techniques, but the target technique is very powerful. And I'll share what I did initially, which worked so well for me and for others. Essentially, I tell people, and what I did, I selected 3 targets. This goes back to 1972 when I had my first experience. And again, I was not a believer. I thought it was all just a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to prove it to myself. And I picked 3 targets that were in my mother's home. They were 3 objects I had made when I was in grade school: metal ashtray, a wooden horse, and a painting of the ocean. And these were my targets that were in my mother's home. And I was in a dorm room about, 15 miles away or something, or farther. And every night as I fell asleep, I imagined myself walking to my mother's house through the front door, in through the house, and I would focus on these targets and imagine myself standing next to the targets, touching them. And I knew my mother's house extremely well. So it was easy to do. And I wasn't a great visualizer, but after a week or so, I started to get the hang of it. And I held that image as my last conscious thought as I allowed my body just to fall asleep, with my intention, of course, of having this experience. It was very simple technique. At first, I started to have more vivid dreams. I don't know how else to call it. I guess today people might even call it lucid dreams. But by around the 3rd week is when I awoken and I was vibrating differently, laying on my side on this single bed against the wall, and I reached out my arm and I felt, there's a way to describe it, but I was vibrating. It just felt different. When I reached out my arm and my hand entered the wall. And that's when it hit me. Oh, my God, I did it. And I was trying to stay calm.
Yeah.
And I think of standing by the bed, and I was instantly standing by the bed looking around. And I had a body, but that was my first experience. And that's basically the target technique. You select objects away from you, and you hold these targets as your last conscious thought as you're allowing yourself to drift to sleep.
But you actually see yourself going there, right?
Yes. You feel the objects.
Okay.
Pretend you're feeling the objects. Pick them up. Examine them. See the color. Feel the texture. Get into it as much as possible. The more you get into it, the more effective it becomes. So it's always good to select targets or objects that maybe you have created yourself, though you know them extremely well. But this is a very simple technique that works, but it takes perseverance. It takes daily practice.
I just keep imagining, the transformation that could take place if within 1 week or 1 month, everyone on the planet experienced this. Can you imagine the shift that would happen?
Oh, my God. It would be an end of war.
Everything would flip completely.
Seriously, the consciousness of the entire world would shift instantly because they would suddenly know instead of believe. And that's the difference. You would suddenly know, oh, my God, I continue. I'm more than this body. Why would you ever harm someone if you know that you continue? You know, that you wouldn't.
Right, and the energy is actually all one. When I'm singing in the trains, I see us all as one, and when you see that energy is like circular between everyone. Again, there's no room for harm. Everything that we lean on right now would just dissolve. The governments, the war, would just like go into dust. It would be crazy.
Oh, it would. All this paranoia and all this incredible wasted money on security. When there's no need for security, if everybody realized that they're connected, who would harm? No one would ever harm someone because there's always a constant balance.
Well, if we can get just the In5D family doing it, that's a start, right?
Yes.
It's the 100th monkey thing. Here we come.
Yeah, enough.
Greg, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Just I'm waiting for a chance to jump in. First of all, we'll
chat. So just jump in because I have a million things to ask.
Yeah. Well,
Greg, this is William, Greg.
Hi, William. Welcome to In5D Radio. I haven't had the chance to really jump in yet, but and I've got a cajillion questions too for you. But I see that we do have some callers, and this is a caller-based show. So let's bring one of our callers on. We have area code 978. You're on live on In5D Radio, 978. Hello. Hi, 978. You're on live. You know what? I think that's the same caller we had last week who couldn't get through, so we're going to put you on hold. And we're going to move to area code 646. You're on live with In5D Radio.
Yes, hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes, how are you doing?
Good.
Very good.
What's your name?
Okay, my name is Pavel. I'm from New York City.
Hi, Prevel. New York, New York. Hi.
How you doing? My question to William is, I still can't get over the eerie sensation, like the paralysis. That part freaks me out whenever I get into like the out of body experience. I will begin to feel a sensation, and then that stiffening part where you can't move, I always freak out.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for that part?
Surrender. Just surrender to it. It's a natural experience. Remember, the part of the freak out is because you're identified with your physical body. Once you and that's the core element, and the fear, of course, associated with that. But you have to surrender to the vibrations, and then you focus your attention. When you're in paralysis, it means you've already separated, essentially. You're already there. You just have to focus your attention away from your body to initiate separation. And the best way to do that is to, you can use a silent affirmation like door now, something that will focus your attention away from your body to begin to separate.
Okay.
The other one is roll now, which is very effective. You just roll, and you roll away from your body.
Okay.
There's two of now. I write about many different ways to do this, but they're two of the most effective ones.
Because I have both of your books.
Good thing.
I have both of your books, The Secret of the Soul and Adventures Beyond the Body. One of my things is sometimes I get this involuntary. Like if I do a rigorous exercise, I go to bed, I will have the out-of-body experience where I see myself in the bed, but I don't recall coming out.
You don't have to. Remember, you don't have to experience a feeling of separation. About 30% of people don't.
But the thing is, I become conscious, like, I guess, after the fact, and then when I realize that I'm out of body, then the shock comes and I go right back in. It's like an involuntary thing. I never planned it. It's like, it usually after like a rigorous exercise or a workout, and I come home and I hit the sack, and then all of a sudden it will happen. No plan. I would never plan these things. It will happen. But whenever I try to do it, the paralysis is what really kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, see, it's a matter of mindset. See, I enjoy that. I enjoy the vibrational state. You have to condition yourself a little bit because that's a staging area, and for many people, that is part of the process.
Okay.
And you have to you realize, in a way, it's because it's conditioning you and letting you know advance warning that you're about to have an out-of-body experience. So you just surrender to that entire paralysis and do exactly what I said about rolling or focusing your attention away from your body, and it will initiate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay, so Heidi, and thank you for having William on the show tonight. I will just sit back and listen to the program. Thank you for your advice.
Thanks, Pavel. All right, take care now.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have, I tried doing the out-of-body experience one time, and I got to the point where I felt my body lifting out, and the cell phone rang. So what's the best advice? What's the best advice that you get? Hang on, let me, we had there's a little background noise there.
Yeah.
We got rid of that. Anyway.
Is to turn off any external sounds. Turn off phones, turn off cell phones. You have to have a quiet environment. It's just like meditation. I mean, it's the same kind of environment. You don't want a phone ringing while you're meditating. It's the same. So it's exactly the same thing. You have to pick your time and your spot. That's a nice quiet environment. So you can focus for a half an hour or so. But that's all it is. But the thing is, surrender is a big part of out-of-body exploration, and people have a difficult time with that because people are so, in general, people are so identified with their body. And it's a matter of, through experience, it's like self-conditioning that you realize, oh, that this is not me. This body is just a temporary vehicle. And once you have a few experiences, that becomes totally self-evident, and then it's easier and easier. Generally speaking, once you have your first experience is the most difficult for many people. And then after you have one or two experiences, the process becomes, in some people, it becomes almost what you would call spontaneous, because you open up to your own potential. Because let's face it, we're not a physical body. So it's only natural that people have out-of-body experiences. By the way, based on a lot of different explorations, it's been found, and this is not only my observations but others, is that during sleep, everybody moves out of phase with their physical body at night. Everyone. They're not floating up at the ceiling, but they're just moving out of phase. Sleep itself is a process of slightly moving out of phase with your physical body and recharging. That's what sleep is. And so essentially everyone is partially out of body when they sleep. So that also explains why a lot of these fear-based ideas are completely, let's just say false. Because everyone, people talk about, will I be vulnerable? No more vulnerable than you are when you sleep every night, because it's the same process.
Well, you touched on something, too, earlier. You mentioned that an OBE is not lucid dreaming. So perhaps you can explain to our listeners the difference between lucid dreaming, astral projection, and out-of-body experiences.
Okay, well, the out-of-body, it's a threefold question, really. Out-of-body and essentially the term out-of-body is a more modern context given to the concept of separation of consciousness from the body. Astral projection was an older term that I know people can nitpick this a little bit because technically astral projection, of course, is the separation of consciousness from the physical to the astral body. And that is essentially what most people will experience anyway in an out-of-body experience. So the term out-of-body is just more of a general, more modern term that's been around for the last 25 years. Okay, now the other question about lucid dreaming. I am a lucid dreamer also. And to me, there is a world of difference between the two because a lucid dream, yes, you are more conscious in the experience, but you don't feel your entire ego awareness present. I use the analogy of you're watching a football game as opposed to you're being the active quarterback with your full ego awareness present. And OBE, your ego awareness, for lack of a better word, is present, and you have your I-ness. It's as real as our conversation now to me. Matter of fact, if that's how I distinguish it. If I'm not as conscious as I am right now, I would not consider it an OBE. I would consider it a dream. So that's how I determine it. But then again, it's some people like to, there's a lot of different thoughts on this. But the bottom line is once you have the experience, you know the difference because it's shockingly 100% real. You're looking, most people will examine the same reality. You're not looking at Alice in Wonderland colors and freaky, weird stuff. Most people during an OBE will experience their own reality. It's just almost like a duplicate of their same reality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a more grounded kind of experience.
Yeah. Can you change that within that reality? Can you change outcomes and things like that while you're there?
Yes, if you have the wherewithal to do it, and you're calm and you stay focused. Yes, you can. Remember, during an out-of-body experience, you've entered the substructure of your own reality. What people forget is that we live in a multidimensional universe. They're not separated. They're all here. They're all now. Heaven isn't someplace. It's right here. We just don't see it because it's vibrating at a much finer rate. My point is that everything is here. Everything is now. It's just a matter of, let's just call it degree of density. Well, right now we're in the epidermis, the dense outer skin. And as you go inward, you're experiencing the more finer substructure. So when you have an out-of-body experience, you're experiencing the substructure generally of your own physical reality. And as such, if you have the wherewithal, like some shamans have, you can alter that reality by altering the energy substructure of the physical reality you're currently dealing with.
So the implications for healing are enormous.
Yes, and I write about this in Secret of the Soul, and I write about this in the new book about how, and I've devoted an entire chapter in Secret of the Soul about this, and there's nothing new about this. This is what shamans have been doing for 20,000 years. They enter into an altered state of consciousness, and they interact with the energy body of themselves and others to, let's just say, move energy, cleanse energy, but essentially move energy so that blockages are removed. If you remove the substructure of a disease, because everything begins on the inner and then moves to the outer, everything around us began as a thought. There's no exceptions. So everything has not only a mental thought form, but everything has an astral thought form. And then eventually it becomes a physical thought form, which we see as matter. They're all manifestations of thought. So essentially matter is crystallized thought. And when you have an out-of-body experience, you have the ability to interact with the energy substructure of your own body and your own reality. And, of course, others, if you have, let's just say, the skills to do so, which is one of the things I discuss in my workshops.
It's on my bucket list to take your workshop, definitely. Can people have OBEs together, planning ahead of time? Does that happen?
Sure. And absolutely, it happens. It takes, generally, it takes some bit of self-control, and people have to be on the same, let's just say, in tune with one another. But Richard Bach talks about this in Bridge Across Forever. This is nothing new. I mean, he writes about having an out-of-body experience with his wife, Leslie, and they're both drifting up through the ceiling. There's been other people that have written about this. But it's generally people that are close to one another, lovers. In other words, people that have the same intention, that are on the same wavelength. They would have a better chance of being able to communicate with one another during an out-of-body experience, because we have a tendency to we resonate with those of equal energy fields. So that's the type of person. But yes, it's been documented. Many different authors have written about this. It isn't just myself. Matter of fact, the author of Jurassic Park writes about he had a self-initiated out-of-body experience. I'm talking about Michael Crichton, who passed away about 6 years ago, and he writes about in one of his books about how he called it astral projection. He had a self-initiated out-of-body experience, and he met with his dead father face to face, and they had a, let's just say, less than perfect, let's just say, relationship. And he talks about it in the book, how he completely resolved 30 years of conflict in an instant by just that connection he made with his father. So this is something that's been talked about by a lot of people. It's not really new. It's just something that a lot of people haven't tuned into.
We've forgotten it.
Yeah. Well, it's all the skills. You know, we have so many skills that are just being explored now. Like I said earlier, I mean, many of the most revered spiritual texts on the planet are the result of an out-of-body experience, essentially. I mean, like I said, Revelations is a classic example. The whole thing is an out-of-body experience. The main teachings of the Quran are based on an out-of-body experience. When Muhammad, and he writes about this in some length, he explores 7 different dimensions of reality. And the night journey or what's called the night journey, is considered the core teaching of Islam. In other words, a large portion of the teachings of Islam have to do with Muhammad's out-of-body experiences. But yet that's, how every religion gets, let's just say, covered in stuff. So the core nuggets that are there are generally buried under the philosophies that are added by other minds later. That goes for almost all religions.
And then it's fed to people as if that's available to only a special few, whereas your work is making it very clear that it's like the ability to grow plants or garden, which we've sort of forgotten as well. It's everyone has that ability. You plant the seeds, you water them, you watch them grow, and it's just doing it. And,
absolutely. This is actually the most natural thing that and it's so important to learn, I feel, especially nowadays, because it's about consciously connecting with your true self. It doesn't matter which label you want to give it, whether you call it soul or consciousness, this is about re-experiencing your true self and of you obtaining the insights from this experience. People have profound experiences, and that's beyond my ability to even express, where they suddenly things. You no longer believe that the weakest thing that we can hold is a belief. It's because it's unconfirmed. It's like I often say to people, what would you believe if you were born in Iraq or Mumbai, India? Your beliefs would be totally different. So what good are they? We have to begin to find a way to have our own experiences, to expand our potential to connect with ourself, our true self beyond the body. Because we will continue without this body. There's no doubt that every one of us are all going to have an out-of-body experience. Some of us are going to be knowledgeable, most of us will not. But there's no escaping this. So why not learn about it, for God's sake? This is not some theory. Like they say, nobody's getting out of here alive, which of course isn't exactly true. But the point is that nobody's getting out of here with their bodies. And wouldn't it be only make sense to learn what the transitional point is and what's going to happen and where am I going and what? This is only, to me, I find it crazy that everybody isn't interested in this. And
that brings up a good point.
Yes.
I have a friend, Wiliiam, who used to have natural out-of-body experiences when she was a child, but she was ridiculed by her friends for her ability and ended up suppressing this until recently. So I'm wondering, why are we not taught these abilities in school?
Because of the way people, our society, human race, is totally immersed in self-created lies. The first lie is that we're a physical body. And then there's what is society built upon? Beliefs that are all flawed. They're told that they're powerless to obtain the answers, and they have to depend on a religion. There are many religions that say for 1,000 years people have been taught that they needed priests to be an intermediator because they're sinful. They can't connect with God. They're too sinful. They have to go through an organization to do that. It's a bunch of lies that we've been fed because certain organizations like to control. It's sad, but true. And there's no money in self-empowerment for these organizations. If you're self-empowered, why do you need a religion?
Or
you don't need
government
somebody to tell you what to do. You don't need a government to tell you what to do if you're totally self-empowered, do you? You create your reality.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need these power players to manipulate you.
You don't need student loans and it's fascinating. Did you notice anything, William, when you first started and then now as it's developed? Do you notice how is your wake, besides your teaching, obviously it's become your passion in your life, but just in the way you see and interact with people on a daily basis at the store or the gym or whatever, how does that change once you've had this experience? Did it change, and how did you see it change? Or how does it change for other people, their waking lives, you know?
That's a good question. It gives you a much deeper view of your surroundings and of people, because you know that all people are immortal. You know that all people continue. You know that they're multidimensional. So it gives you a whole different perspective. I think it opens you up to a lot of compassion about stuff that happens around you, because you realize that, you know, that people are just totally trapped and lost in the physical world. And, of course, this is, of course, the same thing that's fueling reincarnation, because people, when they die, and where else are they going to go? They're almost, reincarnation is a system that's self-created by the individuals, because they're so attached to their physical existence. If you believe, and people don't talk about this, nobody has a gun to your head when they reincarnate. It's an evolutionary system that's totally voluntary. But what happens is, it's like Bob Monroe said it really well. It's like people enter the physical world like an amusement park. They examine it from like the astral plane, and they go, wow, that's intense. It's really emotional. You can have all these intense experiences. You have a physical body with all kinds of pleasures and intense emotions, intense physical dramas, and they think, well, this is like an amusement ride, and then they enter it, and they realize, oh my God, this is pretty harsh. This can be really rough. But they become pretty much addicted to the physical environment and their attachment to their self-identity as a physical being. And it becomes like a net that people become entrapped in. And that's one of the things that the beauty of out-of-body exploration, I feel, is that the experience itself gives you such a wider vision of reality that you realize, oh my God, I'm not this thing at all. I have so much more potential than just being Bill Buhlman, the physical human. I have more potential than this. And I'm much more than this. Yes.
Do you notice that people respond to you differently when you're holding that vibration? I do personally. I notice, and I'm in New York where there are a lot of people, but I notice that when you carry that into your waking life, it's different. It's different. People respond to you differently than if you're just meat stick walking around the city in your, whatever shoes or popular. It's
People pick up on
people don't know.
Different vibration. They don't know what they're picking up on, but they realize something's different.
It's true. It's
I
so
see it
true.
all the time.
It's really fascinating. And when you perform, or I guess in your case, when you teach, it probably affects a lot of people that way, when you teach with that vibration.
Yes, it has an impact on people. I think people respond. I'm quite blunt and to the point. I don't present a bunch of philosophies. I don't do a bunch of theories and speculation. I just give it to people how I feel is right to the point. That's my whole philosophy, and people respond to that because I don't have a belief system. I'm not a member of anything. I teach at the Monroe Institute, and I'm not even a member of the Monroe Institute. That's how I take it very seriously. I'm not a believer. I have no. If I find myself believing in something, I stop and examine it, because almost one of the most shocking things I learned from my 40 years is that every belief is flawed or false. I've never found an accurate one in 40 years. They're all flawed. that, and you start to think of that in your own life, and it gets to be a little shocking because, we pick and choose beliefs. We go through our lives thinking we're evolving because we think our beliefs are evolving. The problem is that all beliefs are like putting lead weights on you. Because if it's created by men, if it's created by the human race, it's flawed. Because it's just someone's opinion. And if we're not humanoids at all, and we're evolving beyond the humanoid body, then a lot of the stuff that people become so obsessed with is actually they're sidetracking themselves because they're focusing on minutia instead of the whole purpose we're here in a body is to evolve consciousness. That's the only reason we're here. And yet people get sidetracked into all this other baloney. And yet it seems important at the time, but the bottom line is it's all about the evolution of consciousness. And our consciousness, to do this, we must become consciously multidimensional, because that's how we evolve ourselves. I feel strongly about this, because that's where freedom is. We have to evolve ourselves beyond matter in this life, or we will continue to reincarnate. That is what I have found.
How do we get the masses to do that? How do we get the masses?
Well,
how do we get the masses to follow along?
Well, it's not about the masses. It's about you. You are responsible for you. You're not responsible for the masses.
Well, I understand that, but when they're pushing all this tyranny down us, it's still happening right now. So how do we overcome that?
You focus on. I feel you focus on when you evolve yourself. You have made the great leap. Mm-hmm. And we have to focus on ourselves and then live that. And then, because we're not responsible, and I know other people feel, a lot of people don't agree with me about this, but I feel strongly that we have to focus on our own spiritual evolution now. Mm-hmm. And not sometime in the future, now. Because otherwise, we are on a return trip here. Because we must evolve ourselves beyond the astral. And that's what I teach in my workshops.
Yeah, I've also found that when you do work on that yourself from inside out, as we spoke of at the very beginning, then it just becomes very clear as to the how. Because then the steps are really clear to you every day it's like what your mission is in a way. I know that sounds really weird, but it becomes very clear what you're doing.
I understand that completely, because I feel that way myself. How many do-gooders, look at all the cultures that have been destroyed by priests that went to South, for instance, priests that go to South America to cleanse the heathens. How many cultures and millions of people have been destroyed because they thought their belief system was better than the indigenous belief system? The there's hundreds of the American Indians, the Aborigines in Australia. What was it? It's ego. My belief system is better than your belief system, so you must adapt to my belief system or die. That is the core of ignorance. And that is the problem with the earth right now. Look at the Shiites and the Sunnis killing one another right now in Iraq. And it's all over the world. But what's the core issue here? They're locked into a belief system. Instead of if these people would begin to pursue their own spiritual development and let go of the belief systems, they wouldn't need to, or they'd have no desire to kill one another, because they would know better.
Or change one another, even.
But they would change themselves, and that's all you need to do.
That's
because
what I mean. You don't
each
have
person did it for themselves. That's what I mean. You can't. You can't expect to be. That's why I don't try to change anyone. I go and I tell people that I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I just try to give people an opportunity to have their own profound experience. and then you decide what to do with it, because it's not my decision. It's a big difference, I think, in philosophy that I just feel strongly that it's all about self-empowerment. And because there's too many people out there that think their belief system is better than someone else's, and it's the core. Let's face it, every war in history is a result of that belief system.
Mm-hmm.
This concept
and it becomes also sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Whether it be nationalism, look at every war. Mm-hmm. If you look at the core of every war through the history of mankind, you will see there's a corrupted belief system behind it. So why do we continue to rely on beliefs when we have the ability to expand our own spiritual experience and find the answers for ourselves? And that's the core. Yeah. It's all about self-empowerment and letting and not allowing yourself being manipulated anymore by external forces. So that's why I say I go out of my way. I'm not trying to change anybody's opinions about anything. I'm not trying to turn anybody into believers of OBEs. All I'm providing is, here, give it a try.
So activism is really a waste of time, then.
If it's changing from one belief system to another, I feel it is personally.
Okay.
That's how again, it's me. That's how I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Any belief system is an anchor. But everybody likes to latch on to a belief, some kind of philosophy or belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Begin to examine them, and you will see that, is this really empowering? Is it really empowering me to obtain the answer? In other words, am I closer to discovering what I am, where I'm going, what my purpose is? If it's not, then I would certainly give it a shove, and look for a way for you to have your own experience.
When you go inside, do you find I found this myself, it gets it doesn't get huge and grandiose. It gets very small and focused, but you're very sure. You're very sure. You just know. But it's not huge and grandiose. It's not like a big blanket over the planet. Everything's going to flip. But it's sure, and it's like a pinpoint. It's very, very laser of what
different people have different experiences. I've had people, and I write about these experiences where people, when they have out-of-body experience, you can self-initiate higher self now, and people talk about going into experiencing shooting through layers of color, and suddenly they're floating in a sea of white light, surrounded by all knowledge. Everybody has different kinds of experiences. Some people end up in a void, and like you said, like a pinpoint of knowledge. With all form is gone. But everybody has their own type of experience based on what they're ready to accept, I think, is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I meant more your waking, how it floods over into your waking life afterwards. That's what I meant, like how you know in your waking life after experiences like this.
I think that's a good question. I think it's about knowing. You know. You can't explain it sometimes. You can't put it in words. You know.
Right.
Like I said, I have absolutely, and I'm not just saying this, I have no beliefs. I try to my very best to purge all beliefs, because I know for a fact they're all flawed. And then it's an incredible feeling of liberation when you do this, because you finally are free from the shackles of other people's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's freeing. Because
how exciting!
It gets to be exciting, and it's a game that you can play with you. It really is. You test yourself, because so often it's not easy to do. We were brought up in a Judeo-Christian philosophy environment, and most of us were conditioned and indoctrinated from a young age. I had to memorize the catechism at the age of 12.
I'm sorry.
What is that? What was that? What was that but total indoctrination?
Uh-huh.
Very effective,
I agree.
too.
We have a caller.
I was not given a choice. Bill, would you like to be a Buddhist, a Hindu, or, of course, later I found out that all of them are equally flawed. But the point is that people aren't given choices. They're indoctrinated, and then they can't break free because it's all they've been conditioned to accept. And what's even worse, in their spiritual path, they still pick and choose. They don't want to throw away the initial belief system. So what do a lot of people do? They alter it. They pick into what some people call cafeteria Catholics. I don't like that part of the belief system, so I'm going to trash that, but I'll keep this one. This one looks good. Isn't that what most people do? And then they think they're evolving. Oh yeah, I'm so much better than I was 10 years ago because I believe this instead of this. The bottom line is there's no evolution there. You've just
I found myself.
Other stuff.
People will say, I found myself, but they're still looking.
But that's what I mean. People they're going from one conditioned belief system to another. I see this a lot when people make the conversion from Christianity to Buddhism. And suddenly, oh man, I've really made the great leap. And then they're shocked when I tell them, no, you haven't. You just exchanged one belief system for another.
Right.
And what if you trash them all and start over? Be a free thinker. Focus on having your own spiritual experience instead of trying to interpret someone else's spiritual experience. That's the key. And that's what out-of-body exploration provides. It gives you that window to do this. But so does meditation.
William, we have a caller for you who has a question. Let's see if we can. Hi, 219, are you there?
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Hi, yeah. Who is this?
Yeah, this is Wolf Spirit from the chat room.
Hey, how are you, Wolf Spirit?
Hey, Wolf. Thanks for calling.
I'm doing all right. How's it going with you guys?
Great.
Good. Awesome.
I actually.
For William?
Yeah, I do. I think you already touched on this stuff. But I had a question because I travel. It's just I don't travel like other astral travelers. I don't have to be asleep while I do it. I just guess you could say I put myself into a trance, or I just close my eyes, do a couple deep breaths, and I will myself out of my body. And as I'm traveling, I'm conscious of what's going on around me in my body while part of my soul or whatever is out there. But since I've been doing this, I have no idea what I'm doing. I gave it a name myself. I call it spirit walking. But it's really hard to find information on what it is I do because I don't know the technical term.
Yes.
So would you have any idea what it is I'm doing?
Well, there's a couple theories. Generally speaking, just so you know, that most people that have out-of-body experiences, their physical body is completely. Their physical body is in a deep, deep trance state, or they're what would be perceived as asleep. There's very few people who are aware of both experiences. Some people have that ability. That's exactly what shamans do. They're famous for that ability, by the way. So what I would suggest you doing, of course, is to read as much as you can about the subject, either my books or find some books, other books that resonate with you, that will give you the information you need, because if you're having these experiences, you should definitely know more about it, because the potential of it is unlimited. You can do a lot more than just walking around. It's unlimited. You can explore your inner self. You can explore your past lives. There's no limit to the capabilities if you tap into it. And that's what I think. That's what I'd suggest you begin to do. And for instance, I touched on it. You can explore or at least make an effort to experience your higher self or your multidimensional self. Move beyond the astral. Connect with your other energy bodies. And there's so much to be done.
That happens to me a lot, Wolf. In my waking, I'm up there watching a lot as I'm walking around doing what I do or performing. I often leave, so I know that it happens a lot. I leave and watch.
Yeah.
And I'm still singing. It's really trippy. Sometimes I leave and compose while I'm still singing.
But yeah, I've really noticed that I can leave and smoke at the same time. I'll go out for a cigarette and just jump out in the spare room, check up on someone or something, and still be smoking. You know? Weirdest thing in the world.
Great.
Yeah.
But hey, thanks for answering my question.
Oh,
Thank you.
Great question. Thanks so much.
Thanks for calling in, Wolf.
Yeah, no problem. You can cut me off now.
Okay. Take care, brother.
See you guys later. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, ciao. Oh, wow. Just the ramifications, I still want everyone to have one experience, and that would flip the whole planet. Oh.
Well, it would, and you don't have to buy a book to even have this experience. I provide on my website, which is astroinfo.org, I have a lot of free information. You don't have to buy anything to learn how to do this. I downloaded my entire techniques part from my first book, which, by the way, it's in 12 languages now. So, I mean, it's obviously people think it's of value, but I have the whole thing available for free on my website. I'm talking about the techniques part and the benefits. So, for those that are interested, what I would suggest you do is go to the website and just check it out. See if there's one of these techniques resonate with you. Some of them this is not difficult to incorporate in your life. I mean, this is not like going into a cave and meditating for months and months. This is about taking 20 minutes every day and just doing your own kind of meditation where you're focused. For instance, just a very simple technique that many people underestimate is just affirmations. Now I'm out of body. You hold your intention, you hold your affirmation as you're drifting asleep. And that is an OOBE technique. It couldn't get any simpler. It's that easy, and it's very effective, but it has to be. It's about retraining your mind to accept a new potential reality. And you know what the old saying is, it takes 21 days to create a habit. Same applies to this. You have to do it every day. Every day, half an hour every day. Now, there's nuances to it, and you pick a technique, you read about the techniques, you pick one, oh, this one looks like I can handle this, it's easy, and then you just do it. Ideally, not in your own bed, because you're conditioned to sleep soundly in your bed. Ideally, pick a sofa or a spare room, someplace different than your sleeping quarters.
Oh, really? So don't do it before sleep. Don't do this in your own bed.
Ideally, your bedroom or your bed is the least effective. Almost 95% of my experiences have been on my sofa in the middle of the day around 1 o'clock. I mean, that just works for me. The point is, I move away from my sleeping quarters. And I have a designated area, and I expect results in that area. I expect things to happen. This is my out-of-body exploration area, which I'm standing in right now as I speak to you.
So if you disappear, we'll know where you've gone.
My point is that it's all part of the conditioning process. That's what it's a lot of little things you can do. It's about reconditioning your mind to accept a more expansive viewpoint of yourself. Because then you begin to realize, oh my God, I'm more than my physical body. I'm so much more. And I have the ability to experience this other part of myself, which of course is yourself. And that is, and it's about a reconditioning process to break the indoctrination. Because we've all been indoctrinated that we are physical animals. And we have. And our entire lives we've been told and conditioned that we're physical animals. And
who must obey the rules.
And of course, believe what you were told as a child. and buy into all the, stay in the box, in other words. Stay in the box. Most people are in a nice, comfortable box, and for God's sake, stay in the box. It's like ostriches and us burying their head in the sand. I'm going to just believe this. Whatever it was I was told, I'm going to believe it no matter what. I don't care what evidence it is that's different from it. Some people have the ability to break out of the box, but many don't. They're just too indoctrinated.
Do you teach different ages at the Monroe Institute, or is it primarily a certain age group that attends?
No, it's generally speaking, I've done workshops for all kinds of groups, but at the Monroe Institute, it's almost always adults.
I just keep thinking if this was a class in school, how cool to get young kids before they get too warped, and then they wouldn't have to go through this whole forgetting.
Well, I've done workshops with younger groups, but at Monroe, it's generally older people. It's a 6-day workshop, so it's an intense workshop. Like I just did a couple in Europe. I do shorter workshops. For instance, I did one recently in Italy and France. And they're only 2 days. But it's a time commitment. It's a serious. People are making a commitment that this is important to them, and they want to learn it. Because there's a lot to deal with. We're just touching on the, let's just say, the edges of it.
In the 6-day workshop, if someone was, the people listening right now, the In5D listening audience, what would they be getting into? Just briefly, an overview with your workshop. How does it flow? What do you do?
Well,
there?
it's an experiential experience. I don't do a bunch of boring lectures. Everybody's in their own check unit. Only 24 people can attend at the Monroe Institute. It's a very sophisticated sound system where I speak to people through headphones in their own individual pod type of environment, let's call it that. And we do techniques over a 6-day period. I use hypnosis. I use different kinds of tools that I have available to me. We use brain synchronization music, which is Monroe developed, which is HemiSync, which is a binaural beat technology that helps to synchronize the two hemispheres of the brain, and just helps people to relax. And we use a lot of different technologies, and I use every tool that's available to get people first into a nice, relaxed, altered state of consciousness, and then we do different techniques that will help them to potentially have their own out-of-body experience.
Awesome.
And while they're doing they're also learning how to do these techniques because people resonate with different approaches. Some people like, for instance, the target technique, and other people will like more, let's say, motion techniques. So there's different approaches. It's a lot of it has to do with being able to go into an altered state with focused intention. And that's what I train people to do, to go into an altered state, deep, deep altered state.
And I'll remind people that you mentioned this you don't, it's also very simple, though. You can go to your website and it doesn't this isn't predicated on a trip to the Monroe Center.
No.
I just want to remind people of that.
It doesn't cost a dime for information about this. That's I'm not trying to sell at the Monroe Institute. To tell you the truth, all my workshops I think are full anyway for the year. They fill up within weeks. So it's not about that. It's about this is just about becoming knowledgeable, for God's sake, about what we are. The time has come for humanity to wake up and become aware of what they are and realize what the trajectory is of their evolution. This is not about saving the planet. This is about evolving beyond the planet, becoming aware of what you are and where you're going. And you only
do you see more people waking up now? Do you see that?
Yes.
now? More people waking up?
I sure do. I
Awesome.
sure do.
You didn't hear that?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay.
There is I think there's a shift occurring. There has been for the last 15 years, especially. But it's an individual path. It's not some big. I don't really buy into that. I know it's a nice theory, the 100 monkey theory, but I think it's more of an individual path that people are going to take. It's an individual trajectory. That's what I see in my 40 years. And also, what I cover, and I think is important, my newest passion, as you probably know, I'm speaking at the Afterlife conference this Friday in St. Louis, and I do a lot of presentations now on preparations for transition, and that's what my new book's about, how to prepare your consciousness for the transition that we commonly call death, how to really be prepared for it, how to go beyond the astral, how to potentially train yourself to go to higher levels. So potentially we have the ability to go beyond reincarnation, which is what the Tibetan Book of the Dead has been teaching for 1,500 years. Or, in other words, they use the term, go to the clear light of the void. I use the term, just go to your higher self. Go beyond form-based realities. And my new book deals with this extensively. What happens at death? What do people experience? What's the reality of it? Because in 40 years, I've never seen an angel. I've seen powerful beings that I refuse to frame them as, follow me? Everybody's framing their experiences. Oh, I saw an angel, or I saw Jesus, or I saw... That's because they're putting their mind, he wants to frame it. You follow? That's what I want to get across. It's.
What about spirit guides?
My point is that we have to become more knowledgeable.
Are spirit guides different than angels? And do people see them on the other side when they have an out-of-body experience?
Yes, they absolutely do. Yes, they do. But most of the people I know, some people would frame those as angels, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely.
But it's all in your the way you perceive it. The point is, the key here, I feel, is just for us to expand our ability to connect with our true self in whatever way that makes, let's just say, resonates with us. And it's important for us, especially in this day and age, I feel, for us to become, let's just, more prepared and knowledgeable about the transition that we all are about to experience. Because as I'm 62 years old, and you realize very quickly after you get a little older, that, it's like the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to know, to become more, let's just say, prepared. The worst transitional experience that people can have is one of fear and complete unknowing. And that's the way that most humans go to their deathbed. I mean, isn't it true?
What a great idea. What a great idea for that book, too, to help people make that transition.
Well, that's what the book's about.
Yeah, I definitely commend you for that.
The second part of my book is about preparing yourself for transition. What can you do? I talk about creating your own CD or recording with your own affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to get help. Let's face it. People have to be self-empowered enough to prepare for their own transition. Most people, let's say, I've been to enough funerals to know this. Most people are more concerned about the flowers than they are the state of consciousness of the individual that's making a transition. I mean, isn't it true?
I agree.
I mean, it's sad but true.
I agree.
I would think the more that in touch with your the other dimensions and your true self that you are in this 3D Earth plane, the less of a shock it would be when your body
the more prepared you would be, certainly. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it just seems logical that if you sort of are daily, minute by minute, second by second aware of who you really are and why you're doing what you're doing, then that it's more like a sliding over rather than a bump and drop, It's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not such a big deal, It's just, oh, okay, so lighter now,
Well, that's what I tried to do with the new book, is to provide almost like a training in the second part. The first part of the book is a story about one man's transition and what he goes through after death, about how there's multiple realities. There isn't a place. There's millions of realities. And people go to the reality that resonates with their belief system, essentially. But each one becomes trapped in that reality. And that's what the Buddhists have been saying for 1,500 years. That's why there's so much emphasis on going to the clear light of the void. What they're really saying is go beyond form-based realities, go beyond the astral plane. Most people that die don't. They just end up on some portion. Remember, everything is thought created. As we move beyond the physical, each progressively farther we move into the universe, the more thought responsive it becomes. And group thought creates reality. It creates the forms, it creates the homes, it creates the beautiful gardens, and it creates everything. But most people end up being, let's just say, cloistered in realities. They're more beautiful than the physical world, but it's still a cloistered environment. How do you go beyond all of that? That's the kind of things that I talk about, going beyond the astral, what is today called the astral dimension. And that's what the book's about. The whole book is about this process. It's a very, let's just say, unusual book, because on page 7, someone dies, and the rest of the book is in the afterlife.
Wow.
Cool.
Well,
Very cool.
You sold me on it. I'm going to go out and buy it. I see we have a caller. How do you want to bring him in?
Yeah, 303. You've been holding for a bit. Let me get in there. Wait.
303, you're on the air.
I can't drive and I can't get home.
Hello?
Oh, we can't hear you very well. Can you, hello? Okay, we'll go back to 303 later. We'll try. Oh, there's someone else. Where'd they go? Oh, they were there, the 646, but I'm not sure what's going on with 303.
I have a question for you, William. Are there any messages from people on the other side on what we can expect in the near or distant future?
A continuation of the same dramas, because that's what this world is for. This is a training ground. Yes, that's exactly what I see every single time. People think that this is going to become a utopia. It's not what the purpose of it. It's not. This is an intense, dramatic training ground. That's its purpose.
Oh my God, I'm so tired.
It's a temporary, and people forget this is a very temporary place, and that's its purpose. Is people learn through their own experiences. For instance, how would you ever experience courage? How would you develop soul, the quality of courage, unless you had to express courage by risking your life? You couldn't intellectually. You couldn't read a book and learn how to become courageous, could you? You could read 1,000,000 books about being courageous, but would you be courageous? No. But one experience in war, where you have to throw down your life to save your fellow soldier next to you, you have just developed the soul quality of great, and that's the purpose of the physical world. We learn through our own experiences, good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter. It's all about gaining the experiences we need. And that's the purpose. That's why this concept, I don't see any utopian environment. The utopian environments do exist. There's many of them, but they're not in the physical world.
You know,
and one of the advantages Yes.
It's interesting that you mentioned that it's all about the experience, because that's one of the core principles of the Rosicrucians, is that your goal in life is not to be happy, it's to live the experiences that we experience every day. And through these experiences, we'll find happiness.
Well, it's all, when it all said and done, it's all about the experiences. That's why and intense experiences often, that's why the history of humanity is the history of war. Because unfortunately, that is the way that consciousness grows in this dense environment. It's through challenge. It's through drama. And it hasn't changed since the beginning of, since man come out of the cave, has it, really? Mm-hmm. It certainly didn't change in the last century, where over 50 million people were slaughtered just in World War II. So there's another purpose. That's all I'm saying. There are utopian environments. They're just not the physical world. That's why it's important for us to extend our consciousness so we can enter these more pristine realities. Those who don't are the ones that cling to the outermost regions near the physical. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that never get to these pristine realities. Once you had an out-of-body experience and you've entered these magnificent realities, you have just opened the door to that reality for yourself. And you have the ability to re-enter that reality. That's the power of this, not only out-of-body exploration, but the same applies to meditation. We each have to open our doors to these, let's just say, more magnificent realities, so we resonate with that vibration, and we can call that reality home. And we do that through our own efforts now. The further we go in now, the more capable we're going inward. By inward, I mean to finer and higher realities and vibrational levels. When we can do that now, we continue to do that after death. If you don't do that now, most people will end up, and it sounds kind of sad, but that's the way the system works, on what is perceived as a lower middle astral plane in a reality that's very similar to this that we're living in. That's what I've experienced for 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this: what are some of the more important lessons that you've learned through having an out-of-body experience?
Well, number one, of course, that I'm not human. I'm immortal. I create my reality on every level of reality. I have the ability to explore interdimensionally within myself, that I exist in all dimensions now, which is very important. By the way, on my website, I have my own, for those that wish to read about what I've learned, I put it on my website, which is astroinfo.org. I think I forget the number of issues that I write about, but it's like 40 different, let's just call them realizations, that I've obtained from out-of-body exploration. And it's mostly that everything that we are the microcosm of the universe. Our physical body is just the epidermis layer of it. In other words, we're already in every level of the universe. And when you have an out-of-body experience, it's all you're really doing is shifting your consciousness, your conscious awareness from the outer epidermis, the physical body, and shifting to a finer, most people experience their astral body. And that's, of course, called astral projection. They've just shifted their consciousness from their outer physical body to their less dense astral body within themselves. And that's called an astral projection. And then they can experience and explore the astral dimension, or at least a fraction of it. But we exist in every single dimension. It's up to us to learn how to move, how to become consciously multidimensional. That's the great lessons that we're learning. And right now, most people in a body, they're just beginning to learn this. Mm-hmm. That's the great leap.
But what if, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but what if the majority on the planet did experience this and did, quote, wake up because of either meditation or astral travel or OBEs, would not that shift the planet from being a war-mongering training ground to something closer to nice, to be in places nice,
no,
or nirvana or
what
paradise?
Would happen is,
what?
What would happen is those people that make that shift would not return. There would be no need for them to return. Those who don't know that would continue to return. And those that do learn it move on to higher realities.
Okay.
So in other words, the training ground continues. This idea that I know what you're getting at, but it gets back to individual spiritual growth. We're not, what's the old saying? You were born alone and you die alone. Now I know that sounds a little harsh, but the point is, our spiritual development is not a group activity, as much as people would like to think it is. It's an individual activity of consciousness. Yes, it impacts others. I'm not saying it doesn't. Yes, we can have a positive impact. Yes, we can help others. But the core of this is that each of us must develop our own multidimensional ability, or we will remain essentially prisoners in form, prisoners of the physical and the astral world. You either escape or you remain. That is what I have found. And it sounds harsh for some people because they've been told this airy-fairy reality stuff that has no context in the actual workings of the universe that I've absorbed, not just myself, but others. It's a training ground. Remember, people forget, in World War II, no one died. No one ever died. That's all they've done is transferred their consciousness from one energy body to a less dense energy body. That's why there's not the great emphasis on this, let's save the planet. The planet isn't nearly as important as you think. The planet is important as a training tool of consciousness. If the planet was to be destroyed today, our consciousness would be transferred to another planet that would be equally demanding and full of drama, because that's what's needed for evolution. And that's, some people have a hard time with that, but that's exactly what I've observed. Mm-hmm. But it's up to us to learn. I'm not trying to sell a philosophy here or anything like that. I'm just going into what I've observed. Please take or leave it. The point is, it's for us to become self-empowered enough to discover the answers for ourselves. I don't want anybody dependent on me for the answers, no more than I'd want to depend on some priest. We have to become self-empowered, or we become trapped in matter. That's the bottom line.
I understand that. Yeah, I do understand the self-empowerment part tremendously, but I just can't see, I'm trying to see how, if enough humanoids that happened to, even if they were to not return after their when they pass on, how that wouldn't change the whole vibration of the planet. But you're saying that it doesn't have an effect on Earth, it won't have an effect on ley lines, it won't have enough of an effect to actually change what this planet is here for, what we're doing here?
Because you have a lot of people have a tremendous amount of emphasis on the physical, See, I look at the physical world as a sad shadow of reality. I don't look at it as the center point of the universe. I look at it at the outermost dense layer that like the Buddhists say, they want to escape from. They're not. See, it was just a perceptual difference, I think. I've seen pristine. I've experienced pristine realities. I've experienced magnificent realities. And I know there's no way the Earth is going to become that. And it's like, and who would care? Because it's such a dense, crude place. It serves a purpose. It's like first grade serves a purpose. You don't want to stay there.
Yeah, the word Montessori school keeps coming in, Montessori training ground.
Yeah, I mean, first grade is an important class, but you don't want to remain there. And that's what the Earth is. It's like a classroom.
Okay.
And eventually, I think all of us have evolved beyond it. The important thing is, how do you do that?
Right. We have one more caller I'm going to bring in because we're getting to the end of the show here. Let me just see. I don't want to neglect them. Hi, 646 Katie, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Yay. Hi. Do you have a question, Julia?
I do. I had an experience, and I don't know what it was, so I'm hoping the guest can clarify it for me. And it wasn't out of body, but I was at a meditation at a place that I was going to where I used to live. And it was very powerful. It was a very powerful place because of the energies there. And it was only 3 of us. And I fell asleep this one particular night. And I went into a deep sleep. I can't even describe it. It was so deep. And when I woke up a couple of hours later, I said, I missed the whole meditation. I woke up at 12 o'clock, and I think I fell asleep around 9:30 or 9, something like that. And the others said, you were really sleeping deep or something. I said, sleeping? I said, that was beyond sleeping. I don't even know what that was. It was like I went out so far that I never felt like that. And then the next day, my roommate said to me, because he knew I went to this meditation, and he said, did you leave your body last night? And I said, what do you mean? Why? And he said that, and if you knew where we lived and how you have to get in, you have to go through a big gate with a lock. It was in, the city. And suddenly there was tapping on the window, like a light tapping. And he was on his computer, and he looked out, and the security light had come on, and he saw me standing outside of the window. And so he thought, she must have forgot her key. So he went outside to let me in, and I was not there. And I asked him what time that was, and he said it was at 10:30, so that was like an hour after I went to sleep, and at this meditation place. And even, I just wasn't there. I mean, I was at the meditation place, and he clearly saw me outside of the window. And he's not even into this stuff, so he was, really freaked out because he saw me standing there outside of the window at night. And I was wondering what that could have been. Well, I know I went out really cold.
Yes, that is reported, that people have, matter of fact, through history that's been reported. Swedenborg and others have reported, it's like some people call it bilocation throughout history. There's some Catholic saints that have had that happen. It's been recorded throughout history, though. And it's right. I don't want to put. I can't put a judgment on what that was for you, but I'm just saying that those type of experiences have been reported, and they're generally called bilocation, where, in other words, your astral body went to your home, which, by the way, is very common, and your roommate, for whatever reason, was able to perceive that energy form, because that's common for people to go to places that are familiar with them, especially when they're in an altered state. That's another reason why the target technique works, because people have a natural tendency to go to their home. People have a natural tendency to go to places that are familiar. So yes, that's been reported many, many times, and it doesn't matter whether you were conscious of it or not. Some people are conscious of it, some people are not.
Yeah, I had zero recollection, nothing.
Yeah, you may not, but I hear a lot of reports of stuff like that. Let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you. That's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks so much, Katie.
Sure. I would, before we break, I would like to invite everyone to check out astralinfo.org and check out this topic. And
Absolutely.
like I told
and
you,
you're having a conference as well. You're doing a festival, right?
I'm speaking on Friday and Saturday at the Afterlife conference in St. Louis, which is a pretty large. Raymond Moody will be speaking there, among other people. It's a large conference. It'll be about 300 people, and I'll be doing it. Yeah, it'll be a
and there's a film
very
too, right?
very interesting conference.
It sounds brilliant.
Sorry,
there's a film that you're involved in too, right?
Yes, I'm in the film The Path, which has had really good reviews. That's also out. Path Beyond the Physical. I'd highly recommend it. It was well done. It does the documentary about out-of-body experiences.
Cool.
And it talks about the Monroe Institute. It has a couple of the past presidents of the Monroe Institute are involved in it. But it's a very well done documentary. For those that might be interested in finding out more about the Monroe Institute, it goes into the history of it, and and some of the people that were part of it, from Bob Monroe to the
president.
Yes.
And there are links to all of this on your site, www.astralinfo.org, which I think we posted in the chat room as well. Greg, I think we did.
Numerous times. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure and honor, mind-bending honor to speak with you this evening, William. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I have a lot to think about. Lots of places to travel now. I'm determined to see them all.
Yeah. Remember, the key is perseverance. Pick a technique and do it for 30 days. That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I promise. I will. I promise.
Okay, very good. Okay,
thanks so much,
evening.
William.
Oh,
Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah.
I'd love to get them back again sometime.
I know. It's a lot to blow my mind, but wow.
I know.
I'm
I still have a cajillion questions. And
I know.
And,
I know.
Which I tried to get Dane's question in from the chat room, just couldn't get it in. Sorry, Dane.
What was his question? What did he ask?
He wanted to know if it was possible that a person's soul can be stopped from experiencing an OBE for karmic reasons. So I thought that was a good question. I told Dan I'd try to get it in, but sorry. So the next time we'll try to get him in. Anyway.
Interesting.
Well, next week we're going to be joined by past life regression hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon.
Yay, Dolores!
Yeah. So that's going to be an exciting show. And as always, we're going to close out tonight's show with a song written and performed by my co-host, Heidi Cole, called Walk On Through the Rain. So on behalf of Heidi, this is Greg from In5D. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste, guys. Thanks for the great evening.
day. I close my eyes, I hit my knees and pray. I feel the weight at the end of the day. I close my